my nigga.
If you knew what you were made of, then we would save the world.
So they've unveiled a new statue, colossal statue, mind you, of Amenhotep III in Egypt. Now, this is a big deal because it is a gigantic statue. I believe it's 13 meters high in its seated position. So every bit the word colossus you would apply to this statue. Now, another reason why it's a big deal is because this statue, well, I'll let you see for yourself what the big deal is. So I just zoomed in to help you all out a little bit. This is the new statue that they've unveiled. And I'm actually really grateful for the fact that at least it is partially preserved. That's a big deal, okay? We don't normally get statues in this condition normally. And by the way, this statue disappeared for 14 years. I think it was 14 years ago they found this statue, at least if it's linked to the find that I think, because when Hawass and the Egyptian Antiquities uncover these statues and these findings, they never release them straight to the public. They always go underground, disappear for a decade or so. Everyone forgets that they initially found it. And then they come back and they go, hey, everybody, have a look at this cool new statue we found. So I think this one was found ages ago, but they've just erected it anyway. And as you can see, I hope you'd agree, feature-wise, it's indisputably African, okay? I mean, it's not too dissimilar from my face, I would say, feature-wise, yeah. It's actually got a broader nose than myself, and probably slightly fuller lips. So this is a very and wide face, very African look. Now, I would also say this is Amenhotep III as a child. I'm a little bit of an expert when it comes to Amenhotep III because I'm very familiar with the several portraits that he has, and I've also done a bit of work in terms of reconstructing some of the artwork. And I've also released a paper critiquing a reconstruction that was done of Amenhotep III. So let me paint you a very quick picture. This is Amenhotep III. And I think most people on this statue alone, given a choice, would say looks pretty African. Now, if you're not convinced by that, and you're like, no, I'm not convinced, you know, not only Africans have broad noses and big lips. Anyone can have broad noses and big lips. Okay, fine. Absolutely. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to go into, I'm not saying fine that you're correct. I'm going to say fine. It's a great straw man that you raise. So let's just have a quick review some of Amenhotep III's artwork so you can be familiar with what he presents as. Next one. So we have this statue, which I believe is on display in Luxor. Okay, Amenhotep III is a young man. Let's click again. This is a young Amenhotep III. I think once again, he's a boy here, maybe similar in age to the statue that we're looking at. Okay, so kind of early teens, I'm thinking of here. But here he is again. Let me zoom in so you can get a full view of what his features look like. Yeah. This is on display in the British Museum. So you can see that very full lips. Okay. There's another statue believed to be Amenhotep III. Once again, very full lips. Very full lips. Head. So we've got this one where the nose is removed, but we can still get a good sense of the shape of the face, the fullness of the lips, the features. There's that Luxor one again. We've already seen this one. I think this is the one we just saw again, but you can get a fullness of the features there. Let's keep going. Here's one with color. Okay, so for those of you who weren't convinced by the first one, here's one with color and hair. Yeah, he's wearing the uraeus, okay, and that's his natural hair. By the way, a lot of ancient Egyptian crowns were actually depicting natural hair, but you can see his natural hair here. Okay, natural looks like it's kind of like semi-locked hair. Don't know, maybe slight, I don't know, you know, some kind of an African hairstyle. I think we all agree this is some derivative of an afro. I think we can all agree on that being the case. And once again, those facial features, even if the complexion wasn't convincing enough for you, the features should be convincing enough that this is an African. Let's keep going. That's him alongside his wife, Queen T. This is an actual statue of his wife. No, it's not a photograph of a real person, because I know you're looking at that and thinking that looks like my auntie. No, that's his wife, Queen T. And here's another statue of him. Color's being rubbed away, but you can still see the fullness of the lips, and the nose is missing. This is a statue of him. I think this is a young version, or it could be, I actually think this could be Ramesses as well. This is on display in the British Museum, so I'm not really 100% sure that this one is him, although it's been attributed to him. Here's a stele, so that's a kind of like a side view chiseled into a piece of stone, okay, of the king, but you can still see the fullness of the features, exactly the same. Okay, there's that. Again, we've seen that, we've seen that, we've seen that. Here's another statue of Amenhotep III, features slightly chiseled, but not doing a very good job hiding the fact that clearly still presenting as an African. And it, I mean, this one, if you had any doubt, you know, this is like hyper, like that's like beyond. Anyway, I don't really need to add much to this one, you know, in terms of the way it presents. Okay, I took these pictures, by the way. This is how he presents in the Louvre. These are on display in the Louvre Museum as well. Okay, that's Queen T, his wife, but she's kind of been knocked off, so we can't see her. Here's another display of a kind of a side view, profile view, in the stylistic ancient Egyptian format, but you can see the color and the hairstyles. There he is with the ancient Egyptian crown, okay, which I believe this crown actually was a kind of like a portrayal of locked hair beneath, because all of the crowns were based on African hairstyles, but that's another discussion. Here he is wearing the capreche, which is another crown based on an African hairstyle that's been inspired by the shape of the dung beetle, but we can get into that another day. But you can see, even with the nose knocked away, there's very full African features. Here's another bust believed to be of Amenhotep III. Now, this one really interesting to me, because this is a young one, which I kind of always kind of put aside and said, okay, well, it's a really nice bust, but we haven't got anything marrying it or mirroring it. Well, that is until now. Okay, these two are pretty much identical, I think you'd agree. So then that starts to bring into question how many of the statues that we have has his nose been tampered, because this looks like it might be the truest depiction of the shape of Amenhotep III's nose. The irony is that even with the more kind of like narrower nose, he still looks very African. But now we have, you know, two corroborating artworks that display, I would say, almost identical face. Now, this is obviously it's a young person, whoever this is, but still something to consider. Okay, and then there's a couple more. You can see what I mean about the nose on these ones, slightly different. So why did I take you through that? There's a reason I took you through that, because there was a reconstruction of Amenhotep III that was done, okay, and it was widely publicized. In fact, if you type in Amenhotep III reconstruction into Google, you're very likely to pull this up.
I'm tired of what my people have done, what they continue to do. I'm fucking sick of it.
This is how the Eurocentric Egyptological community has decided Amenhotep III looks like, based on his mummy. Now, let me quickly give you a spoiler alert. This is not scientific. Don't look at this and think, well, that's what the science says. This isn't scientific. And if you want proof that this isn't scientific, I want you to type in Amenhotep III reconstruction. And if you just scroll down a few, and maybe a couple of pages, depending on the search engine you're on, you'll see a paper called Reassessing the Facial Reconstruction of Amenhotep III. Let me zoom in for you so you can see. Reassessing the Facial Reconstruction of Amenhotep III. You see that there? Okay. This paper here, I'm just kind of like hovering over it. Click on that paper and give it a read. It is long, I'm not going to lie, but I wrote that. And it essentially breaks down why this is not a scientific reconstruction, and actually feel very, very free to ignore it. It's not a good reconstruction. I'll show you what a better reconstruction looks like, because I did my reconstruction before this artist. This artist is called, by the way, is artist. All the people who do reconstructions are artists, they're not scientists. And this artist's name is Cicero Moraes. And we're in direct contact with each other. And I critiqued heavily this reconstruction that he did. and I did a reconstruction before it. And in fact, I'll show you my reconstruction of a young Amenhotep to match the statue. Or at least, bear in mind, I did this reconstruction before this statue was unveiled. But you can see what my reconstruction estimates a young Amenhotep III to look like. So this is what I anticipate a young Amenhotep III would have looked like. Now, if you can see, it's not a perfect match, but I think you'd agree this is a much stronger match. Yeah, I think we could all agree. Looking at, let me go back a couple. Looking at the works of Amenhotep III, that this is a stronger match for a young Amenhotep III than this. I think we could, I think so. I think we could at least agree on that point. Let me know if you agree in the comments, by the way. But anyway, so I just think it's quite funny that obviously it's always the case, if they haven't had a chance or an opportunity to tamper with these artworks, they always corroborate and strengthen the position of African scholars or Africana scholars or Black scholars like myself, who will assert to you quite strongly that the ancient Egyptian civilization is an African civilization, and it's a civilization that belongs in terms of its achievements to African culture. It doesn't belong to anything else. The problem is when Zahi Hawass and co find stuff, they rarely publish any pictures of what they found because they want to save everything to the grand unveiling, or put it in a museum in Egypt, in Cairo, and say, come to the museum, or Luxor, come to the museum if you want to see it, because essentially they like to monetize every aspect of the ancient Egyptian civilization, and it doesn't really belong to the archaeological community. So that's kind of how it sits. So anyway, there's this article which discusses the finding of, I think, potentially those statues. So statue of Tutankhamun's grandfather, that's Amenhotep III, discovered, and it's more than 14 years old. So if that's the case, yeah, what took you so long? I hope I'm correct about that. By the way, if you know if this is linked to that find, that's the best information that I could find. Let me know in the chat. But anyway, yeah, just thought I'd share the news, which you've probably seen going out and going around. Yes, there's been a brand new colossal statue unveiled. Yes, I'd say indisputably that it presents as an African. No, it didn't look anything like this. And yes, it probably looked more like a native African, and I will stand and hang my hat on that. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one. Peace.